I've got a...
That's true.
No,
Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome. Special welcome to Professor Weimann. He's a pediatrician who specializes in pediatric endocrinology and diabetes. He obtained a medical degree at the University of Munich and the MPH from UCT, with long-standing work experience as head of children's hospitals and medical director of tertiary care hospitals in Germany, Switzerland and South Africa. He's worked in various countries as a pediatrician and researcher and is affiliated today with the universities of Göttingen in Germany, Zurich and Cape Town. He currently serves as medical superintendent for child and adolescent health, women, maternal and neonatal health. Her research interests are in the fields of mHealth, mobile health, healthcare management, environmental health, as well as child and adolescent health. He's published her research in international peer-reviewed journals, serves as a reviewer, and has just published a book, High Performance in Hospital Management, a guideline for developing and developed countries. In addition, she heads the Healthcare Innovation Hub at GSH and is a board member of the Green and Healthy Hospital Group at GSH. The GSH joined this network quite recently and has her Green Hospital projects received a National Innovation Award at the Centre for Public Service Innovation in October 2016. And so I think you'll agree that Professor Weimann is very well qualified and experienced to speak to us on the topic of climate change mitigation in healthcare facilities and lessons from the GSH experience. Welcome, thank you.
Thanks, James. Thanks very much for the introduction and thanks for inviting me and also enabling us as Purposeful Hospital to present our projects, our Green Hospital projects. And what I would like to do, I just want to give you an outline why we are doing the projects. I don't want to bore you with too many more scientific data, but it will be included when necessary. And then I will touch on what we are currently doing at GSH. And in addition, I also would like to engage you to reduce your own carbon footprint, because it's no longer they have to do, the government have to do, it's really coming to us and we have to do and we have to act. So, let's see how we do. It's not frozen. It's not changing. Here.
Okay, see if I can find it.
It's the feedback, yeah. Which, oh, maybe if you use this. It's not showing. This is a good nuisance. Was that the one that he gave you?
No, that's mine.
That's yours.
Yeah.
It's a real nuisance.
And if you touch the screen?
Ah, that's a good idea.
It's a touch screen, okay.
Can you escape out of it and escape out of the PowerPoint and really launch it?
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh,
Change?
there you go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it was the wrong presentation there.
Okay. Okay. So, thanks. So when you talk to people about climate change, you still get the message that they're really worrying about not being longer able to move to sea point because of the rising sea levels and having more sunshine in winter, in summer and a longer winter period. And it's also still the reception that it will affect others, but not us. I think currently in Cape Town we are realizing what climate change will mean for us in the future. And here is also this perception that it's created by others, it's created in India, it's created in China, it's created by the United States, but not by us and ourselves. So climate change has huge implications for all of us. It will change the economic growth, it will aggravate migration, we see it already, and we will have the biggest impact on health and healthcare. And I think that's the reason why we are here today. So I came across with a good country index, and perhaps some of you already know it. So what's a good country? So it's defined as a measure of what each country on Earth contributes to the common good of humanity. And it does not measure what countries do at home. So why is it necessary, why it's important to be a good country? So on one side, governments really tend to prefer to do business with countries with a good reputation. And also citizens like to live in a country with good reputation. And you feel it when you go abroad and you say, oh, I'm coming from, and oh, and it just leaves also good feeling. So Simon Anholt, who developed that good country index and worked for multiple governments as an advisor for many years, phrased it in that way. In order to do well, you have to do good. And in order to become competitive, you have to start behaving. And we all, the governments and we as citizens, have to become global citizens. And it also shows how countries care for others and not only for themselves. So there are currently two rankings, one done in 2015 and one in 2014, and there's still within that time frame quite a shift in the ranking. For example, just Germany has increased from rank 13 to 6. Ireland was on the top spot in the first one and moved to rank 11. South Africa, its ranking has decreased from 44 to 51. And what does it mean? It measures science and technology, culture, international peace and security, world order, planet and climate, prosperity and equality, health and well-being. And just to give you an idea about the 2015 ranking of 163 countries, so place 1 currently Sweden, place 20 US, I don't know where they are currently, and place 51 South Africa. So it was very interesting for me to find a measure how to compare climate between countries. And for example, when you see the planet and climate ranking, Iceland placed first, especially where they have a complete green economy, place 70 in Germany, UK 77, 34 US, and 143 South Africa. So, and even in the planet and climate ranking, the measures comprises reforestation since 1992, export of hazardous pesticides, CO2 emissions, and ozone depleting substances. And that is a picture that I've taken last year in December in Madagascar, and you see a lot of deforestation there and also a significant reduction of habitat and biodiversity. So when you look, for example, at the Good Country Index and compare some European countries with South Africa, you can see the various differences. They are also in CO2 emission, ozone, reforestation, and the ecological footprint means on that side they do more than average and more good than average, and they do less good than average. And sometimes there are also no data available. And South Africa is also another measure that highlights that South Africa belongs to the countries with a very high carbon footprint and very high carbon emission. So that really brought the Landsat article on the topic and the link between climate change and health on the global agenda. It was published in 2009, and I think that's a reality we are facing, and we are also facing here currently in the Cape. By the time we realize it will be too late. So it's really difficult to have a really proper foresight and foresight management. And I just would like just to stress it because it, again, Jane was so kind to give me the slide. So what's good for our climate, it's good for our health, and it's good for our economy. And it's always undermined that the green economy combats the good economy. And currently the Western Cape government tries to establish a green economy here in the Cape. And also to protect public health, we need policies that just give us frameworks where we can work in. But on the other side, we also need to improve the pace how we move forward. And there's really urgent need to do something about it. And after the Trump debacle and the withdrawal from, of the United States from the climate change in Paris, national governments are moving too slowly. And so the Under 2 coalition was formed. And also the Western Cape has formed the Under 2 coalition just to collaborate better, to see the needs, and to build up closer relationships. So what climate change has different effects, direct and indirect effects, and in my talk I just want to touch on the drought situation, the water quality evolution, and the impact on health. So that's the pictures we see almost every day. We are very much aware of the drought situation currently and also heading towards 5 water restrictions. These are data that were presented at the Health and Climate Change Western Cape government meeting last week, and these are rainfall patterns over the last decades. And then you, for example, you see this fluctuation in rainfall. And for example, the last really severe drought that I've experienced here was between 2000 and 2003. And they were the first signs, in a way, that we are just facing some severe change to do something about it. And there were quite a lot of also research being done and published and articles, and there was, well, we really have to do something. We are definitely at 2012, we can be in a very dire situation. And it was ignored. In addition, there was a quite intense densification process driven by the municipality bringing more people into the Cape and also building these extravagant, huge mansions that use quite a lot of water. We also have to be aware that building activities use a lot of water. So for each single house, you'd lose at least 30,000 liters of water just for the building and construction. So these are also rainfall patterns taken in the Cape Town Airport, and as you see, they are below average. So what is a way forward? So what do they propose how to solve this situation? And in a way, crisis management, it's never really seldom environmental friendly. And it's always good to listen to the first warning signs. So what's being proposed currently is just to deplete our groundwater, and that's currently very generously done, and to and tap onto our aquifers. So there are also examples that we can learn from other countries. So what's going to happen? So when you overuse the groundwater level, the water table drops. This has implication for the vegetation, for example, for forests and greeneries, because they cannot draw any more groundwater, and it also leads to dry wells. And there's another risk. There's also the saltwater intrusion risk that we have to consider. And there's there are several other examples worldwide where aquifers are depleted. It's happening in Asia, it's in America, in Southern Europe, and in the Arabian states. And we should just also learn from those experiences. For example, they did a research study and found that 13 of the planet's 37 largest aquifers were being depleted or receiving little to no research. And 8 were classified as being overstressed. And that's also happening in India. that the water levels are definitely completely overused and leading also to severe situations for the citizens there. So in a way, we should be aware of it, make the same mistakes. For example, I've brought some pictures here from the depletion of aquifers in California, and that happened over a very short period of time, and also caused by drought, leading to severe depletion of aquifers. And California, for example, is the world supplier for almonds. And when you see what you've seen recently, that the price for almonds has really significantly increased. And it was due to the fact that almonds plantation had to be chopped down because the groundwater levels dropped and aquifers were depleted, and in addition to a really severe drought. So there was a lack of almond supply on the world market. In a way, that can also happen to our wine industry here in the Cape, because wine is quite water intensive. And I just made that's really a sustainable solution to grow wine in a water-scarce country, because wine uses a lot of water that could be used somewhere else, and we always complain about alien trees that use a lot of water, but wine and the wine industry also consumes quite a lot of water. So this is also another data that I got from the Western Cape government. That's the projected water demand over the next decades, and that's huge, yeah, when you just have a look at it. And it's just for non-agricultural water requirements. And when you see the data, for example, for 2025, yeah, the increase, and then in 2040, there's a huge demand of water here in the Cape. So there are solutions or possible options to deal with it. Green agri, for example, is an example. You can also look it up on the internet. There are also some examples, and you can also contact them. And I just brought you some fast facts that we need to be aware of the indirect water footprint we need. And also that's also another reason why we have to head towards a more conscious and environmentally friendly lifestyle. So tourists use 6 times more water than residents. And interestingly, international tourists are much more compliant than national ones. So when they stay in a hotel and hotel management talks to them, they are much more adaptive to less water than other citizens coming from other cities here in South Africa. And when you drink 1 glass of beer, the indirect water usage is 75 liters of water. When you drink 1 glass of wine, you use 120 liters of water. 2,400 liters of water is used to produce 1 hamburger, and 2,700 liters for 1 t-shirt. And I think it's good and useful to know these data. So what are, for example, would be possible sustainable solutions for us, for our drought? For example, wastewater treatment would be a solution. And I would say if they started in 2000 and implemented it, and we are not wasting billions, really 30 billions of liters of water every day and dumping it in our ocean, and would reuse it as Namibia does it and Windhoek does it, then we wouldn't in such a dire state at the moment. And it would be a win-win situation for both sides. Yeah? In a way, we would combat the drought, and we wouldn't pollute further our marine environment, and we mustn't swim wastewater pollution when we go to Clifton and Camps Bay. And that's some pictures I've taken at the Whale Coast. It's currently really serious damage done at the coast with water pollution, because it's not only here in Cape Town, it's happening all over. It's happening in Hermanus. These pictures were taken in Hermanus. And I'm stumbling quite frequently over dead seals. It wasn't the case 10, 15 years ago. And if you want to read about it, you can read my article on blue flag beaches and telescopic diseases in Clift. So, coming to the next topic I would like to discuss is our air pollution that we are facing every day, and this mainly derives from our traffic, our heavy traffic that we do have in Cape Town, and from the refineries that we do have here, and definitely also from the burning of wood fires and our own fireplaces. So in May this year, Landsat also published 2 articles about it and dealt with the air pollution that's also quite severe in the UK and public health. And it's just really interlinked, air pollution and chronic lung diseases, and also the financial burden that air pollution causes. And when you're just dealing with trying to solve a problem, it's not done as an overarching framework. For example, when you talk here also to the government and to people who are responsible for air pollution and monitor air pollution and find solutions for that, they don't really think about healthcare costs and the involvement of healthcare costs are being involved. And I think that would be also perfect combined really project that could be, for example, could be done together with public health to drive it and to find solutions for it. So these are also pictures I've taken here in Cape Town, and especially also when you're at Fortescue, you see the air quality here, and you see this smog haze quite often here over the city bowl. But there are also solutions for that problem. For example, what we need to drive is definitely more public transport, and the bus service is very unfortunate. For example, that Fortescue has no My City bus, and there's no bus stop for patients there. And we need to have a combined and really a circle that we can all use and serve. And for example, school buses would be also implementation of school buses, and a school bus line would definitely be a relief for all of us. Instead that 2,000 parents are driving to various schools in parallel, and then 2,000 cars are driving back. Just summarizing, probably 30,000 cars in the morning just related to schools. Being a really good line of bus shuttle would be possible to implement. Currently in Europe, cars needs to be analyzed. The air pollution of cars is analyzed. You have to analyze your emissions every 2 years, and then you can get allowance in a way to drive your car. And what they currently also now doing in cities, you get an environmental disc for your car. So depending what the emissions are, you get a disc from 1 to 4. With a disc 4, you are no longer allowed to drive into cities. So you have to park your car in front of the city and use public transport for the inner circle of the city. And these are possible solutions that could be implemented here. And currently also the diesel cars are in the shooting in a way in the line of interest, because diesel produces quite a lot of emissions. So what can we do as people, as citizens? So buy a new car, buy one with blue motion technology that stops the engine when you're waiting in traffic, but you can also do it yourself. And you will not harm your car, and your motor, because that's also the perception that you cannot stop the engine and it will damage the motor. So when you do have more than 2 or 3 seconds, just do it. I do it regularly when I wait in traffic, and that happens quite often, and my car still drives. Or as our role model James, take your bike and go. And we should definitely plant and preserve trees, and I think that's quite a good slogan. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is to plant it now. So moving on to plastic pollution. Plastic has a really impact on our health. You may ask what's the relation, or what's the link between health and plastic. Plastic can act as an endocrine disruptor, and definitely also has an impact, as we can see here, on our environment and on a healthy environment. So this is what I'm experiencing when I'm doing beach walks. So that was a beach walk I did here in one of the nature reserves, and it was completely unintentional, became a beach cleanup. And these plastic bottles definitely come from stands there which sell plastic, but it's also being washed ashore. And plastic has become a really big environmental hazard here. Everywhere you go, in a way. It's not only here. You can go to Mozambique, you can go to Madagascar. You just find it everywhere. So, but we can also do something about it. Ask our retailers just to stop the plastic packaging, and there's currently a petition going on, so if you want to sign it, or please sign it, that they should just reduce the plastic packaging. That's not necessary. And when you go there, it's showing how much packaging they currently use. There are alternatives here, also in Cape Town, so it's much nicer just to see unpacked vegetables. I think it's so much nicer. And there's a Greenpoint market in Ranger Bay happening every Saturday. No plastic bags, no plastic packaging. You can buy your food there. It's very well received, and it's definitely growing and seen by the population. You might know that there are some attempts to clean the plastic garbage of our oceans, and it's still ongoing. There's some people trying to do that. It's quite difficult to do it, and when you see how much and how many resources and how much input you have to put into to solve, in a way, in environmental negligence, I think it's a better way just to prevent it than later on just to treat it. So other solution that we could just implement, and I think it's not that difficult to implement it. I think we need to have incentives and put a deposit on plastic bottles. Currently just engaged with some stakeholders, and they told me that even the government here is considering to have deposits on plastic bottles. In a way, it's even not so far-fetched to think about a ban of plastic bottles. Then when you, for example, what we have, there you can just have to bring back your plastic bottle, there's deposit on it, and it would also generate an income for low income groups, you know? And it would definitely clean up our land side. And bring your own cup bottle. And there are also biodegradable solutions. So I was once, well, one statement is you should never give a climate change talk without offering solutions. For example, Ecosia, it's a website and search machine you can use, and with the money they generate from the advertisement, trees are planted worldwide. And these are the trees that are already planted, and for example, that's when I took the picture, these were the amount of the cow trees I planted. So that's a nice way to do it. And there are also other ways, for example, have a healthy vegan lifestyle and reduce your carbon footprint, or there are quite also in America quite a lot of zero waste initiatives happening. And you may say that's not possible here, that's Africa, but we're also going to have a zero waste store in Cape Town within the next months. So it's definitely a new movement and worth looking. So lifestyle choices are definitely an option. Avoid to use aerosols and sprays. I also wasn't aware of, but I've seen data from the city that whatever we spray here at Prof Hospital can be picked up in the ocean. So it's not going anywhere, it's just really leading leading to the pollution of our oceans. And in addition to that, it's also causing acute and lung diseases. Plastic is everywhere, even microplastic in toothpaste. And yeah, we can also use the more biodegradable products, and there are drop-off sites for hazardous household waste that we could use. But we also need to educate our people. Yeah? People just don't know it. Probably my neighbors don't know about it. The domestic workers definitely don't know about it. Gardeners don't know. And you really have to engage the people around you. And just the last thing that I would like to mention is also our clothing industries is in a way, and we are all a culprit. It depends what you're deciding on to wear. For example, when you decide to wear these torn jeans, it also has an impact on workers and often leads to silicosis, as this case study from Turkey shows. So there's huge extensive information available on the internet. I think these are two documentaries that everybody should see before the flood at 6 degrees. That I think everybody can visualize where we're heading at. So coming back, what we are doing at GrowToSecure. So we, as James mentioned, are part of the Global Green and Healthy Hospital Network worldwide. And on the agenda are several things: leadership, chemicals, waste, energy, water, transportation, food, pharmaceutical, building, and purchasing. So, and we try just to address all of them. So what we did over the last years, really just to do quite a lot of awareness, because as you can see, awareness needs to be raised. So what we also did was the canteens. We introduced biodegradable products, and they do not use longer the polystyrene, quite harmful packaging that's also ozone depleting and can also cause endocrine disruptions. Then we also have the loadshedding and just still do awareness campaigns to save energy. And we implemented recycling bins all over the hospital, and also improved our waste management to separate and segregate better waste that's contaminated, for example, by blood products and others. Because when you just put the other way around, it leads to fill up landfills. But on the other side, when you just put blood-stained products into normal waste, it can also have health implications. So that's the article we published in January this year in the South African Medical Journal, and it even caught the attention of the editor. And that's the Green Hospital framework we have developed. So it comprises that we are just trying to establish a polystyrene-free hospital. We have established that at the canteen levels and trying to avoid polystyrene, although polystyrene is quite a big industry here in South Africa, and it's definitely also an issue, just also wrapping pharmaceuticals. So we are still ongoing trying to reduce our energy consumption, in a way also combine the greenhouse gas emission. Then we're trying to reduce the food and pharmaceutical waste. We enhance recycling, and we are doing quite a lot of education and awareness programs and campaigns. So why is it so necessary to reduce medical waste? That just one bag of a patient that he brought back just lying at home, on one side, medical waste is a wasteful expenditure. It's quite costly, and we are under really severe austerity measures, and every cent really counts there. So in a way, it's not useful to waste our resources, and it's definitely deteriorating our environment. And interestingly, whatever we swallow here, we can also pick up in the ocean. So whatever we flush here, you can just, when you have a swim in Greenpoint, you can swallow it there. And the medical profiles are very different. For example, in Clifton, they use more antidepressive drugs. I was very surprised to hear that. And in Wood Bay, they use more TB drugs. So even you can get different profiles when you analyze our water. And also pharmaceutical companies tend to to have quite a lot of waste for packaging. When you just see it here, there is no medication inside and it's just left. So coming also back at our carbon footprint at GSH, that's for example the coal. We are using less coal over the years, but still, I think it's still quite shocking that we are using 7.2 tons of coal every day. I think we still have to reduce that. So the water consumption is really definitely, we are using less water and we are using it more efficiently, trying to avoid leakages and repair leakages. We are also now recycling water of dialysis patients, and there are some other recycling plans also in place just to use water more efficiently and to use less water. And the same is also happening regarding our electricity. It's also a nice drop in electricity consumption that we have experienced over the years. Still, I know the electricity consumption is quite high at night. We're still engaging with clinicians and other staff members to switch off lights and trying to reduce that as well. So recycling also started a couple of years ago, and we are increasing our recycling, but we also have to drive it and remind people. And these are the recycling stats from July, and it's also nice that we can also generate revenue with the recycling. That's also quite important in public hospitals. I've introduced and collaborated with stakeholders to introduce recycling on ICUs and intensive care units. Intensive care units are very waste intensive, so they're using quite a lot of plastic packaging, and everything is in a way wrapped. Before March, they put everything in one bin, and that also produced quite a lot of expenditures for us because it's all been taken away as hazardous waste, and hazardous waste is more expensive than just household waste. So it's also going quite well, and we are also increasing our recycling in the ICUs. So, and we are also engaging on food wastage. So all our food is going to a farmer. The farmer is collecting that every week. And this is one article that appeared some weeks ago. So South Africa really has a shocking food wastage amount, also coming from the different buffets we are using. Buffets tend to be quite food waste intensive, and these are global stats from food wastage worldwide, and that also has a huge carbon footprint. So this is a picture I've taken of our polystyrene-free canteen. Also not too easy to convince them, but finally it happened. And we have water dispensers now in the hospital, also to avoid that plastic bottles are being used, and at least that people can also refill bottles. And we now use paper cups instead of polystyrene cups. This is a picture I've taken in the ICU, where we now use plastic and collect our plastic. And in a way, we have implemented recycling bins in, I wouldn't say all, but I've tried to have recycling bins in tea rooms and being rolled out of the hospital. So that's one of my favorite topics, implementing more green energy here. There are examples here in Cape Town that work very well, and I do hope that not in the very far future we might have some solar panels being implemented at GSH, especially on the roof of the new main building. And I think when we see that how much solar energy we can generate in Europe, and especially also in Germany, and compare how much sunshine we got here, I think that must be doable. So all in all, we try to reduce our carbon footprint, and what we like that our staff is doing, that really just also engage with climate change, then also apply the Green Hospital framework, then really adhere to waste triaging. And on my way here, I've spoken to Mr. De Jager, and he said it's really amazing. They have some education programs happening currently just to have proper waste segregation. And 2 years ago, there were 12 people attending, and for example, yesterday there were 160 people just in one session. So it's really improving, and I think we also did quite a lot raising awareness about the importance. And also reducing the waste of medication when prescribing medication, and then also trying to engage to fund your own green hospital projects in collaboration with the Innovation Hub. So what we can all do, engage more publicly. I think AWAS is very well known in Europe, South America, Australia. It's not so well established. Well, it's well established here, but it's not well known, so I just want to promote, just to become an AWAS supporter. There are great things doing also at the Paris climate change meetings, and I think we could, for example, in Europe, we could achieve quite a lot environmentally over the last years. And it's not that we are having better governments there, it's just that we are also engaging publicly a bit more. And I think that's just something we have to be also aware of. And yeah, I still want to have that smart meter meeting going, and still battling with Denton to do it. Then we use for dialysis, the water of dialysis patients. Then we engage to improve the waste recycling and in ICUs. And I'm also having doing a project together with a dietitian to have more healthy food consumption in the hospital and have a better oversight. As you know, Coke is still cheaper than water. And chips are also much less expensive than other stuff. That needs to change. We have implemented the green procurement of the Western Cape. That we prefer in a way products that are more sustainable, last longer, and are produced locally, just to have a lower carbon footprint. And for example, bring your own cup. I think that's also quite a nice initiative. So whenever I go to a cafeteria, I take my own cup, and I think that's really an easy way to avoid waste. So that's awareness campaign I'm currently doing with Big Fish Media, because people are not really aware what recycling means, how you recycle, and just to combine the various projects we are doing, and we are doing that just to celebrate the 80th anniversary of Grotuscure. That's happening in January next year, and it was selected as an innovation project. Yeah, and when you look at awareness, I was walking in the hospitals for laws on one weekend, and I saw the posters here. So explore, don't exploit, it's just also in Afrikaans, and that was done in 1992. So you see how long it takes to raise awareness, and we, as I mentioned before, have to do it at a higher pace. So medical students needed to be, we need them as climate change action heroes, also to drive change and spread the message. That's the engagement I'm just trying to engage our staff with, supporting our project, finding own initiatives, but also make more conscious green lifestyle choices. There's several websites you can consult, and you can always contact us for help and support. Our overall goal was to, or it still is, to reduce our personal and organizational carbon footprint. I think we are on track, but still lots to do. And support healthier living, raise awareness, and also empower people to become climate change action heroes. And also to get an award. I think that was really quite something for us to be invited to the CPSI Awards in October last year. And it really makes you feel proud when you have achieved something. And it was also quite a nice team building event, because several teams of Grotuscure were selected for awards. So in a way, as take-home messages, South Africa and especially Western Cape, as we are aware of, are highly vulnerable to climate change in its direct and indirect impacts on public health. Climate change is already visible here. Health professionals can and should use their influence to to protect health from climate change as advocates for the patients and public health by implementing greener health systems. Yeah, and in a way we should and must consider all our lifestyle choices we take and use less energy, water, and create less waste, and also get involved in local environmental initiatives. So, and the last one is just a big thank you to James, who is very supportive and very inspiring, and it always makes my day when I do something together with him. And then the stats I got from the Western Cape Climate Change Committees, and Ronald Yaha, who supported me in getting new and fresh stats from the recycling initiative. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Edda. We have some time for questions.
Two questions. In the rollout at the hospital for the initiatives that you described, were there active employee engagement campaigns to educate the employees, both for at work and at home, and to get them to buy in and accept these big changes? And then the second is, if you've been involved or know people involved in reaching young children in middle and high school age, to help them begin to integrate the same type of information.
So coming back to your first question, yeah, I think you really have to engage with I would say, the different silos where hospitals are working in. So you really have to address nursing, you have to address students, you have to address clinicians, and really educate them.
Well, that was the question: is was there a fairly
resistance?
No, not well. There's that possibility too. But was there an active engagement of the employees before adopting all these in order to have them help adopt these measures? They needed to be brought in.
I think there were some people quite passionate about it and did their own little projects or just were thinking about it, yeah. And I think you can reach out to them when you're doing bigger projects. But there was not really active or proactive, we have to change or have to do something about it. Yeah, and the second one, just also engaging, I think that's also one reason why we are currently also doing the documentaries. We would like to show it in waiting areas, for example, also to spread the message, because there's a lot of people also coming from rural areas, community hospitals, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to educate them. And interestingly, I'm also engaged in the green school projects, and there's quite a lot of happening in the schools here. And even from quite disadvantaged backgrounds, yeah, there are schools really engaging in green projects. So some schools are doing things. I think it's also has something to do with leadership, probably when the headmaster wants it or somebody is around that drives it. Something is happening, and then there are also other well-served schools. Nothing is happening there, and there is not real interest in it.
What would you recommend if we had to do some greening in the school? To start, please.
I think you always have to engage with people that are passionate about something, yeah. But you can also always, as I mentioned, reach out to them and just find people where you want to do it and just do it and start it. And we are also trying at SEX, for example, that we are just buying plants and make the campus green, although SEX is quite a green campus, but still, yeah. And just start with and roll it out, and people get interested and just form a group and find a group and drive it from the school, and find also a teacher who engages and supports it. I think that's really important to do.
And there's a second, relatively unrelated, but about the war with plastic. A friend of mine stands at the cashier and she unpacks all the plastic and everyone gets so irritable. But she's making a point and it's working in some way. I suppose if everyone did it, war would be soon.
Yeah, last week I sent a long letter to the manager to Woolworths and Pick and Pay, and I got a long letter back what they are all doing and how environmental friendly they are. And I think that's the only way to do it. You really have to drive it from various angles, yeah. And I think this petitioning, just for the packaging and Woolworths, it's a perfect thing. And also people do that, and we also recommend it when you're there, just unpack, yeah, and also make choices. And whenever I go there, I say, where do you have your polystyrene-free packaging? And I just don't buy anything that's polystyrene packaged. And I just don't buy it and buy it somewhere else. I just don't. And in a way, you can always find alternatives. And I think we as consumers have to drive it. And for example, Germany, there was a really nice initiative over the last weeks, driven from Greenpeace, and Greenpeace is very active, yeah. And they changed Nivea, for example, the company, because Nivea is using quite a lot of plastic in their products, yeah. And within 10 days, yeah, they changed the production line, yeah, because there was such an uproar in the population. And then citizens just tend not to buy it at all, and then just the sales decreases drastically. So there is power in people, and we have to use it.
I just ask, is there any progress on the green procurement within the Western Cape government?
Well, it's I'm going to have a meeting with, always never good in names, who is driving that initiative. And it's in a way it should be implemented, and it should be running in all Western Cape hospitals. Sometimes it's a bit difficult also to engage with finance about it, because they just want to get things done. Not Annelies Besudenhut, our finance director, promised that she will just follow that through procurement, the green procurement process. But it also needs to be advertised. And when even my colleagues, they ask me what's green procurement, and they have no idea what that means. So you really also have to educate the people.
So I think a big area for us though is the medical students, you know, the next generation of health professionals that are coming out. And I mean, of the 6 years of medical education, we get an hour on climate change, and it's not adequate. So I mean, we're working on it. At least we have the hour. But I think that's, you know, we're sitting on top of the next generation of medical professionals, and we really should be doing a lot more, particularly because the teaching hospital is an example. So we should be using that.
And I think even it's sad, but still, for example, load shedding and the drought are opportunities for us, to drive the agenda and the awareness, because they can see it, and it's much easier if you can see it to do something about it than talking about something quite theoretically that might happen.
Yes, yeah.
On that note, thank you, Edith, for your leadership on this. We wish you well with the continued advocacy. And it has left us with a lot of practical ideas and resources. Please feel free to look at those, to contact the Innovation Hub. Understand with the 80th anniversary celebration, there's going to be some call for proposals. Is that right?
No, that has already happened.
Okay, so that's
and the closing date was in June, and we have selected the projects, and they are ongoing, and we are also going to have an award ceremony at the end.
Okay. So we can look forward to a lot more around greening of Fortescue and the 80th anniversary.
Yeah, and perhaps I can show you next time the documentaries we did.
Yes, that
would be good.
And I think we should green the school a bit, even from the school. We're not very good.
But you know, we've been trying to...
We've got environmental health.
I know. We've been trying just at the cafe to get recycling.
No, here, started home.
No, I know, but a lot of our home buddies go to the cafe. But I agree.
All right, well, any ideas? Welcome.
We'll have to start a committee.
No plastic bottles at conferences. They're sitting on all the tobacco.
Yes.
Terrible.
Should be a policy, right, on that.
And you can make it as a policy.
I don't think we had plastic. We have had plastic bottles in the school for a while, I think, for water.
No.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
sort of an organised.
Yeah.
No.
And
So things happen sometimes far too slowly than we wish, but yeah, it's a continued advocacy and the leadership that is needed. So thank you again.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks.
So I'm gonna do this report to Harlan, and write a little shit for down to YouTube.
No, that's good. It's coming back.
There's more circulations.
Thanks again. Yeah, I'm being done.
Common-based one.
Because I'm the head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I set this up.
We need to.
So if I just wanted to